Fantastic. Wow. So we are Facebook living with Catherine Laws for Silver Tent TV. And I'm so excited to be doing this interview with you, Catherine, all about wearing your heart on your sleeve. And some of the people in the Silver Tent might think, what's that? But a lot of our members in the Silver Tent and in Silver Synergy have been wowed by you over the years that you've been a member with us for lots of different reasons. I just think how many of your stunning photographs of seascapes and weather conditions that you share with us, and that are always really like moody or beautiful or intriguing. And then you share fabulous photographs from your walks in your local area, with wonderful pictures of phenomenal stones. You have this ability to find the most magical stones with wonderful markings on them and fascinating tree sculptures. And I mean, it's just really, really interesting seeing what you bring into the community each day. But of course, most of us are mostly wowed by the beautiful jackets and coats that you design and create. And I mean, they're so beautiful that, of course, I'm commissioning one, and I can't wait for that to be ready and for me to try that on. But I didn't want to jump straight into that straight away. Is what I wanted to talk to you about is, I know that you've worn many hats in your life, that you've been an architect, that you designed and built your own house, didn't you? So out of all the things that you've done that have brought you to this point here in England, creating beautiful clothes, is what's inspired you most? Well, that might be a hard question, but
that's a bit hard, because I think each thing has been inspired by something different. Having my children, that was amazing experience. Having two children is fantastic. Dropping into the textile world and discovering that I actually had certain gifts, that I knew I could sew, and I'd sewn since I was 11 and made most of my teenage year clothes, but I hadn't realized I could actually spread out and move into other areas and explore all of those. So I think each one is inspired by a different particular feeling or event. I've always loved fabric. I remember just loving touching and feeling fabric, going into all the fabric shops when I was young. And now it is a matter of, I find something, and it may be two pieces of fabric, and I think, what else can I put together with that to create something that someone would love to wear, or into a piece of wall art or something else. So I tend to pile things together, and I've got piles here piled up of things that I've put together, thinking, right, from this will come some end product. Sometimes the inspiration comes from, say, if it was a competition entry, like my Underwasser coat here, I decided to do something based on that artist and architect's work. And luckily, a range of fabrics came out in New Zealand when I was living back there that just spoke to me of Underwasser. But it took me 2 years to come up with design.
Do you want to show it to us a little bit more?
Yes.
Because this is an amazing creation. Wow. So talk us through it a little bit, Catherine.
Right, okay. So Underwasser was an Austrian artist and architect who was known for being wild and wacky. I mean, he often gave lectures in architecture in the nude, that sort of issue. But he was into bold colors. But I think the thing that really speaks to me is he always talked about humans having 5 skins. We have our own physical skin. We have the clothes we wear. We have the buildings we live in. We have the atmosphere, the air around us, and then the planet, the atmosphere. So I wanted to embody some of that in this. But he was also known for designing very organic shapes and buildings. And it suddenly came to me as I was driving between Bexhill and Eastbourne one day to take my mother shopping, this idea of picking up the curving grass roof of a building that runs round the coat. It's a bit hard to see.
Yes.
So I wanted something that was asymmetric. It wasn't going to be a symmetrical pattern. I knew the sort of simple shape I was going to use in terms of a pattern for the garment. And then I built it up with the fabrics I actually had. These were the only ones that were left in the shop in Blenheim. So I bought a lot of this and a lot of this gorgeous one, which just implies his buildings. And worked on his idea of trees. People should be able to lean out of buildings and touch trees. And all the quilting I've done on it is replicating that 5 skins, so 5 layers. But I also had to include on the arm, because he moved to New Zealand in 1970. And he designed a new flag, the Koru flag, which was never taken up, but the Koru is the Maori symbol for growth and new beginning. So I had to incorporate that somewhere on the pattern. And when I cut out the shape, there was a bit left, so I added it at the side.
Wow.
Some of these things sort of just develop as I'm working on them, rather than, although I had a sketch for this, fully completed sketch, a lot of the things like how I quilted it developed as I started to work on it.
I've just got to say, I've heard you describe that jacket before, but not in quite so much detail, or maybe I just didn't hear as much detail.
Mm-hmm.
I'm blown away by the fact that you would take this concept of the 5 skins and then be able to somehow condense that into the design of a jacket. It's like I can't imagine being able to even think that I could do that, which is clearly why.
It's funny because beforehand I was probably feeling the same. I'm thinking, how can I do this? What am I doing? What am I trying to represent? Which is why it took me so long. Things were just ruminating, and as I say, it just literally came to me as I was driving. I could see it. I went home and sketched it out, and then I could make it. Now, for a lot of my big pieces, that I would say this piece and my big wall hanging of my childhood are certainly the 2 pieces that when I'd literally finished the last stitch, I looked back at them and thought, where on earth did that come from? Because a lot of the things I can say, well, actually, I just love those fabrics, so I'm putting those fabrics together. This little jacket was a skirt that I'd never worn. And I thought, well, rather than waste it, it was a wraparound skirt and cottons with lots of panels of different fabrics. So I thought, actually, let's cut it down, make a little jacket. What can I add to it? So I'd take it around the shops, find something that goes, oh, that's great, put them together. And I know that is my gift. And a lot of people say, when I go into a quilting shop or fabric shop, they say, how on earth do you do that? And I think, I'm not sure, I just seem to look at it, but it wasn't like that to start with. When I was making my own clothes, even as a sort of young mum, I often got the colours wrong, or the shape. I ended up looking just like my mother, wearing the same sort of clothes. Not that there was anything wrong with that, but I hadn't developed my own style. I was getting there with some of the colours, but not until I actually had my colours analysed. And that suddenly helped. And then when I found my way into the textile world, I had the most wonderful tutor, Lou Round, over in Canterbury, who just allowed us to explore lots of things, and I discovered what worked best for me. So my thing is putting colours together and different prints and different patterns and expressing something.
And by the sound of it, taking massive concepts.
Yeah, yes.
Being able to encapsulate that through fabrics and
yes.
I'm like, it's just gobsmacking. I mean, I've got some of the questions, as you know, that I want to ask you, but I also know how organic these interviews are. And I'm just thinking, so I know that people commission you've got clothes that are already made that you can sell, but also people like myself come and commission you.
Yes.
So do you welcome those more, I don't know whether outlandish is the right word, but if somebody had a commission along the lines of a concept of 5 skins, is that something you would welcome? I mean, I don't know.
Oh yes, I love to do something like that, but not every day. It's not something I can do regularly, which is why I like just putting together the other fabrics I've found to make up a simple jacket. Now I've got a pile here of navy with pink roses, and I think I found these fabrics first. I went into the quilt shop and found another navy fabric. It's got spirals and sort of like galaxies on, but it's the same colors. And then picking up another bit of pink, and it's not showing the true pink, and then another lovely deeper pink for the binding, and the front facings. That's how I like working. So, and some people might think, oh, well, she's not doing anything fantastic. But actually what I'm doing is making something totally unique, because someone else won't see the colors in the same way.
Wow. I mean, just it's mind-blowing, how one of the things that I love is exploring people's creativity. Like, how do they take that leap from one place to another, and trying to kind of unwrap that. And I guess that's what we're doing. So I think, as you've kind of covered, like, what inspires you to design and create an item of clothing, which you kind of can't seem to, I mean, you do that all the time. You're always working on a piece of clothing, even if it's not been commissioned, aren't you?
No, I mean, I have lots of things, and I mean, I have piles and piles of fabrics that I've seen in shops, and I think, what can I put with that? What can I mix and match? I mean, all the cottons, I've got so many piles here. Another pile of cotton fabrics, quilting cottons.
Gorgeous.
Just adding superb layers to them, but also I might come across something like a really luscious lining. Now this is going to be a bit difficult to do. This is sort of like dark green and teal, teal and sort of dark burgundy.
That's amazing.
Now I see these online and I think, oh wow, isn't that gorgeous? I have seen them at all the big shows when I was teaching there. Or some maybe not as ornate as these, but I think, wow, something simple on the outside, and maybe a lovely wool fabric, because I do have a lot of woolen fabrics that you open up. If you think of top class menswear, particularly suits and things, they often have the best linings. And then some of the main high street brands, M&S, do occasionally produce jackets for women and coats that you open up and the lining is absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, so sometimes I'm inspired by that, and then I find something to go with it. It could be a piece of viscose or something that will make a lovely soft draping lining.
I now fully understand why you have a flat filled with product.
And you know that one.
I do. I know that your flat is absolutely filled with fabric. And now I fully understand. I could get completely into that and not be able to do anything. Wow. You just
amazing. And then deciding which color to go with for a lining.
Wow. Oh, brilliant. I just want to share something here. So it's really funny because Steffi's making sure that she sends me comments from people.
Right.
Jude Evans has said, good morning. I think I need one of these beautiful garments in my life. Jude, I think you do. I think you do. I've really got this feeling all the time that you're talking, Catherine. I'm seeing in the back of my mind some of those iconic elder women, often in New York.
Oh, yes.
Very flamboyant. I can't remember their names. I'm sure you know.
I've got pictures of them. Yes.
Exactly. I can't help but see those and think, wouldn't it be great? Like, we've had people who've posted those photos of those iconic women in really incredibly flamboyant outfits in the silver tent, and think, well, wouldn't it be fun for more of us to be wearing clothes that are unique and individual to each one of us? And yes, I know that's more expensive than shopping in Primark or wherever. But I've got to the point where I'd rather save my money up and buy one gorgeous creation than to have lots of just kind of mundane, same old stuff. So yeah, Jude, you need to contact Catherine and take the next step. And I've got to say, for anybody else that's thinking the same thing, even though this is quite early in the interview, the journey with Catherine to designing and creating your own piece of clothing is an incredibly magical and inspiring journey in itself. I mean, I've loved the conversations and explorations that we've done. So would you like to, because you've brought quite a lot of your
Yes.
Beautiful creations into the room for this. Do you want to show us one or two that you love most and their story?
Yes. Now, this one I have made for me, and it's a fit and flare coat in panels. So quite different from the simple kimono shapes I've been making. Now, this is actually, you know about this shape. Yes, but this fabric was some curtains I found in a charity shop years ago, and I cut them down, cut off all the top headers and everything, and washed them, and had all the pieces sitting. I have no idea, I can't remember now if I bought the fabric in England or in New Zealand. And I suddenly thought, because I'm making up this coat for you, I want to make up that pattern. And so I decided that I would use this. Now, placing all the pattern pieces to get all the print in the right place and balanced is quite a task. But then I thought, I always think, right, the lining has to be something that stands out as well. And I had this lovely blue. Yeah, so that is, and I love wearing it. And in fact, everybody just goes, wow. And I think that's the thing, when I even just wear my little cotton kimono jacket, I walk around Waitrose and I get at least 3 people say, wow, where did you get that? Oh gosh, you've just made my day, because I just love seeing color. And I think that's the thing about wearing something where it's not just a garment, but it makes the whole of you shine.
Yes.
Then I can do these very simple kimono shapes.
The colors and fabrics on that, just
so this is a mixture of silks and cottons and a complete mix of things, but using up fabrics I had. And I've got bags of, and I've also made it in much more subtle colors. It can be in any sort of colorway you wish. And then the one over here, which is
can't see that.
No, is a Japanese print. So very simple. And although it looks teal, sort of blue on the screen, this is actually a deep teal, which picks up the teal in the print.
Wow.
It's funny, teal is just one of those colors that never reproduces very well on, but also with a lovely satin lining. So sometimes there's a mix of recycled, vintage. The green jacket has a vintage lining in it. So I'm mixing all sorts of different things.
And also, I've just remembered that, you know, you often share with us that you've been into the lanes, or, you know, wherever you've been into this little shop and this charity shop, and you have this ability to just pick out. You find things. You're a bit like a
yes,
aren't you? But
yeah,
really magical things.
Oh, totally. Actually, I meant to bring along there in one of my chests of drawers some beautiful silk brocades that I found in a furnishing shop. They were just 1 meter, 2 meter lengths. I mean, they are exquisite because they were very expensive fabrics, but I didn't have to pay that full price. And I certainly wouldn't charge people that full price, but they're totally one-offs. You know, yes, I do have this knack. That's why I feel as though I'm swamped by everything, because I've got too many things. But but yeah, I was thinking that this morning. I was thinking, I go into a charity shop, or I go into any fabric shop, or anywhere really, and think, yes, I see all these gorgeous things. A lot of people would say, oh yeah, I saw that, that's really nice, I like it, and walk out. But I can't seem to. I think, oh, I may never see that again. I remember with that navy spotted fabric, I'd seen it 2 weeks before when I went over. This was over at Goring-on-Sea, and when I went back, it was still in that same shop, and I thought, you know what, I can put something together with that. I know I can. So that's what I do. I think it all just speaks to me all the time. And I realized a while ago, I mean, my mother made all our clothes when we were young. You know, it was just the thing. Growing up in New Zealand, there just weren't the same sort of shops to buy clothes and things from, but she knitted our jumpers and cardies and made our clothes. I remember when I was about 10 or 11, she made me a winter coat in teal sort of mohair wool, but with a little fake fur collar and a little pillbox hat to match, because that was the fashion then. And she was still sewing well into her 80s, still making things or altering things. But I hadn't realized fully, because he died when she was very young, her father was a master tailor in the city. Wow. And I was doing some ironing, I think pressing one of the garments, and I suddenly went, oh my God, yes, that's right. He's here with me, helping me. And she described in some notes that she'd written, that I found after she'd gone into a care home, that when she was very small, her parents used to dress up and go up to London dancing one night a week. Her mother in her flapper dresses or long gowns and a beautiful velvet cape over the top, and her father with his top hat and tails, you know, and it suddenly just came alive. And I realized why I loved watching Downton Abbey and all the clothes and all of that sort of period of clothing.
And you made a beautiful opera coat.
Oh yes, that was when I was went back to New Zealand, and I was the first year I was back there, I was in Wellington, and which is around the harbour from Lower Hutt, where I was a teenager, and I was house sitting for a friend of my older sister's. And I went round all the old fabric shops I knew, and they were all still there, which was wonderful. And I went into the main one in Wellington, and in the back little corner room, there was this beautiful silk velvet Devore fabric that already had on it sequins and beads. And I thought, oh my God, this is just wonderful. I've got to have some of this. And it was, I should have brought some of it along. It's a sort of brown with like a sagey green flower shape with the beads in. And because it's a Devore, which means some of the velvet pile is burnt off or not there, you can see through it in a way. So I thought it's got to have some sort of wonderful lining. And I looked around the shop, and a lot of people might just choose brown or a dull color, thinking, oh, that one. Oh no, I chose a chartreuse, sort of slightly crushed satin. And when I bought them, the woman said, and the pattern, which was a 1948 swing coat pattern, she said, you have to bring it in when you've finished. So I did. So what I had done was lengthen the coat, leave out any interfacing so that it was going to be very soft and draping, and used a plain brown silk velvet for the face, the bands, the front or the collar. And I made it up, and I had that for years, and I still never wore it to the opera. You know, it was my opera coat. It was the one I brought out in all my talks, and I had it at an exhibition at Standon House, which is a National Trust property, but decorated by William Morris. So all his beautiful wallpapers. And a woman came in with her husband, and she was looking at all the kimono jackets, and she tried several on, and she went, I don't know. And then she found that, and I sort of wasn't sure whether I wanted to sell it or not, but I had it for sale anyway. And she tried it on, and she went, oh my God, this is just beautiful. And then she said to her husband, let's go and get a cup of tea and think about it. And he just turned around and pulled out his credit card and said, "No, you're having it."
Oh, wow.
And it turned out they had been to Glyndebourne the night before. And I thought, that's what it's about. It's and although some of these coats and things I make are for special occasions, if you want to just wear it, wear it. Which is why I wear my little colourful one a lot during the summer, because it's like you can keep things for best and never wear them. So I thought, right, let's wear them.
And I remember, you know, some of the stories that you've shared before about when you've been at shows and you're selling some of your creations, and the difference that people experience when they try on one that isn't right compared to when they find the one that is completely right. Do you want to take us through a couple of those stories? And
oh gosh, well, one wasn't sold at a show. It was to a friend here in Eastbourne, and I had literally just posted a picture of it as I'd finished it on Facebook, and I suddenly got a message from her. She wasn't even in England at the time. That's the one for me. But at the shows, yes, I've had people come along there. I had another one of those 1940s swing jackets, but the shorter version. And I had it at a show, and a woman came around and she tried it on and she said, "Oh, it's really lovely." And it looked wonderful on her. And she thought, "No, I'll go and think about it." And while she was gone, someone else came up and just went, "Oh, this is for me."
There's a moral in that story.
There is a moral in that story, yes. But yeah, there is something about the combination of colors. Sometimes it's the size, the shape, because I do make them in different sizes. They're not all the same size, even the kimono ones.
Yes.
And somebody will put one on and it's like it lights them up. And I know when Susie Clark bought hers, she tried on several of the ones here, and as soon as she put the one on that she bought, it was like, oh yeah, it's somehow they speak to you.
Yeah.
So I feel that when I'm putting the things together, I know somewhere there's someone that is speaking to, because even though I love it, it's not necessarily the right one for me. But I know that what I'm putting together is something that someone somewhere will find and think, yes, that's what I would love to wear.
Wow. I think it's very much, you know, in the interview that I did with Catherine Rowan about, you know, color, that the clothes that we wear and the colors that we wear can like radiate our essence and help us become like more visible in a way. And sometimes if we wear the wrong things, then we can like disappear a bit. And I'm getting that sense that when people try the right one of yours, that's what it's doing. Maybe it's helping radiate the essence of that individual.
Yes, I think so. And it doesn't have to be a really brightly colored garment at all. But it's allowing them to actually be more fully them. You know, I don't know. It's funny because I made a wedding outfit for a friend 4 years ago, and she had this wonderful idea. I hope she doesn't mind if she watches this, you know. And originally it was going to be a cross between Game of Thrones and Galadriel from Lord of the Rings, you know, type of outfit. And months passed and not a lot happened. And she came to visit me because she lives in the New Forest. And I took her down to C&H Fabrics, which was still open then. Unfortunately, they've closed all their main branches for dressmaking. And we looked at patterns and looked at things, and we decided on the pattern, and that, right, it would be that. And I said, well, we could do this, but I'm running out of time for doing anything too complex. So I said, let's just look at some of these furnishing fabrics. And she found a curtain fabric that was just amazing. And so everything's flipped and changed. So I made this very simple fit and flare coat wearing this beautiful furnishing fabric and a simple silk dress to wear underneath. And she looked absolutely stunning.
Wow.
And I think she realized, you know, that actually, yeah, this this is expressing a part of me I don't show very often, because it was very dressy. And she works with wood and wilderness and other things, so she's not known for wearing really dressy clothes, but on the day it was just magic.
And I think that's the word that encapsulates what you create, is I think these creations of yours are magic. And actually that sort of segues really well into, like, and you've probably covered this, but I'd like to really ask the question, is that when you're creating for someone specifically, so you've been commissioned, it's what would you love them to feel most when they put it on?
I think it's feeling happy, but just feeling that this is right. That I'm it's very hard to express, actually. It's that feeling that actually what I have created for them is not only what they wanted, but is maybe a bit more.
Yeah, I was just going to say about your attention to detail, like when we were talking about the jacket design for me, and I had in my head quite a clear idea of an outline idea, and then you started talking about the cuffs, right? And you showed me a design of cuffs I'd never seen before, but it was like, oh wow, that is like, wow, like, oh, I want that. That says something to me. And then you came up with some buttons and some ideas about this, that, and the other, and it's things that, like, I've got the outline, and then you've got those extra bits and nuances that just elevate that, that coat or jacket into a whole new level. I mean, just absolutely astonishing. It's such a magical ability that you have to make these. It's like you create all these connections.
I think so, yeah. And I think I most probably didn't realize I had it. It was something that you use in architecture. If you're designing somewhere and you're actually involved in the whole process, you will think about things like light fittings, what's the right kitchen unit style, all those details that finish it off. I think they're the things that I can do really well. And when I made my coat from curtain fabric, I was looking around for buttons, and I'd found some in a shop, and I thought, oh, okay. And then I thought, no, they're not enough, not good enough. So I looked on an online site, a wonderful, well, they've got 4 shops, I think, up in Yorkshire, Duttons for buttons. And I found some vintage buttons online, and I thought, oh, they're perfect. And they're just perfect. So it's going that little bit extra, thinking that actually, that is what I need. It's like with my Hundertwasser coat, I self-covered the buttons because they had to sort of go with the outfit. When I'd finished it and taken it to the courier service, who then took it to the Festival of Quilts, where it was in a competition, I had just overlapped the front, stitched the buttons on, and I delivered it to West Sussex and had 2 hours spare for the time limit. And when I received it back from the show, or collected it, because I was actually at that show, and I tried it on, I thought there's something wrong. I had, it needed to overlap a bit more. So I had to unpick all the binding and the loops and the buttons and move them all so that they all fitted in that section. It's looking at all those things and realizing that they're all part of it. It's not just the design. There's all these little details, and it's knowing that having a gold bias binding strip, just add something I hadn't realized. And it wasn't until friends who've been to the new Hundertwasser Museum in Whangarei in New Zealand sent me pictures. He's got gold domes on the roof, and the walls are painted black and white, and this sort of pattern. So obviously I was picking up on things I most probably had seen, but had just absorbed in some way. So they come out while I'm working on them.
And you know, I tell you what's striking me that I hadn't really thought of before, but just hearing you talk about finding vintage buttons, and you know, it's not about what buttons can I find that are less than 50p.
Oh, no, it's going, yeah.
And you know, and I hadn't realized this, that when we were talking about things like cuffs and buttons and all of that kind of thing, is that actually the journey to having a commissioned coat or jacket from you is more than just a gift of a piece of clothing for me and for anybody else that goes on this, because actually what happens is we're constantly, as the person commissioning, exploring our own sense of value and self-worth, because to suddenly start dressing something up, like, it's really easy, I think, a lot of people to buy like a functional piece of clothing. I've, you know, having,
yes.
You know, short on funds and wealthy on fat, let's say, you know, the clothes that I would buy in charity shops were functional, they fitted, and they didn't cost much. But actually, I look back and I think, I don't think they did me any favors, apart from the fact they covered me up. And so to explore with you, I mean, I got into Joe Brown clothing, and I love Joe
Yes.
Brown clothing. I think it's fabulous. But to take that up a massive notch is to come and have a piece of clothing designed and created by you. We don't nickname you Catherine the Great, Laws.
No. Yeah, I'm wearing my tiara.
And so that journey of going, this is not about function, although there is obviously function.
There is function, because it has to be functional. It has to be wearable. That's the thing. There are amazing pieces of what they call wearable art, or, you know, coats and things. And in New Zealand, there's a whole big show called the Wearable Art Show. But these garments may be made from wood and all sorts of things. And all right, you can just about walk down a catwalk in them, but they're not functional in terms of wearing them daily or, you know, to some event. So these have to be wearable, comfortable, but also take you beyond that. I mean, I suppose, you know, the film Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, you know, when she saw the gowns by Dior, it elevated her to not just, to the haves, you know, she was like the rich lady she'd charred for, you know, I mean, it was beyond that. It was her, in a sense, in essence, saying, you are magnificent, so you can wear this.
And isn't that's what we're about, isn't it?
And I think that's what we're about, which is why I love wearing my pieces. And I'll just wear them, as I say, going shopping, going for a walk along the promenade, around anywhere. You know, I'm disappointed when I can't wear one of them and I have to put a raincoat on or something. But I've also got a wonderful multicolored raincoat from an Irish company, which I found in a charity shop. I mean, this was charity shop buy, silk, as was this, you know. This it is just adding, and some days I look like a complete what the hell happened here, you know.
Oh, brilliant.
But you know, I mean, I'm wearing orange trousers.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes when I was wearing pale turquoise for a while, and then I decided one day, no, I'm going to put these on. As soon as I put them on, it was like the light had just been zoomed up a millionfold. You know, I realized that actually orange is my favorite color. You can have too much orange because it can be overstimulating, but also it just makes me feel fantastic.
Wow. Well, we, right at the beginning, before we started the actual interview, we went through a couple of the questions. Because I wanted to pose a question that I knew could be quite an interesting discussion, let's say, not something you'd have an off-pat answer to. And just thinking about, what the Silver Tent is, a community for women over 50, wherever they are in the world, but not just as a gathering place, as a place for us, each one of us, to recognize that we have wisdom worth sharing in the world today. And, we're talking about how wearing a creation, the garment designed and created by you, is designed to help, like, really not I guess magnify our magnificence, but like make it visible to us as well as others. But what does that generate? It's like, is the Silver Tent just somewhere where we go, oh yes, I'm a wise elder and you're a wise elder too? Or is it somewhere where we use that wisdom for something of value out in the world? And so the question was something like, it was really hard to put into words, the question, but the question was something like, when you've created something that is perfect for somebody, particularly if it's on as a commission, is what, apart from feeling wonderful, what do you think is the knock-on effect that can have on somebody? So for example, we used myself as an example, didn't we, that when my jacket's ready, and for anybody thinking, how long will that take? That's up to me to send the information back to Catherine. When my jacket is ready and I'm just going, wow, I feel incredible in this, is what is the knock-on effect that could have? What does that give me out in the world that's of value beyond myself? I don't know if I've wrapped that question up properly, but yeah.
I'm hoping it just gives a feeling of greater confidence of actually just being who you are.
Yeah.
You cited those wonderful women in New York. When I give my talk about my coats and going through the whole process and looking at them, I end with those photos, because I want, and it also comes out in the other textile artwork I've been teaching and creating. It is to say that each of us is an artist, is a creator, or maybe more a creator. It could be that you create wonderful gardens, or do wonderful embroidery, or do really creative things in completely different fields, but you are a creator. And playing small and hiding yourself, there are times when you want to, but also without being too brash, you can actually just go, this is me. I remember when I went back to New Zealand at the beginning of 2008, and I flew via Los Angeles. And when I arrived in Auckland, my younger sister met me. And she said, did you see them? Did you see them? I said, no. Who? And she said, Trini and Susanna were on the plane. And I went, oh, well, they must have got on in New York, Los Angeles, because I didn't see them in Auckland, Auckland and Heathrow, but I have no idea. Anyway, they came to do their show in New Zealand, to bring color, because I realized, having gone back there, most of the women were wearing gray, black, white, dull colors. It was like, where's the color from my childhood gone? And they were there to say, actually, you don't have to, I know, in the bird world, the females are always quite dull, but you don't have to be dull. You can show your love, your fun, your essence, your whatever. And clothes, as Hundabasa says, it is one of our skins. We express ourselves through these different things. And some people might think, oh, well, clothes, I just put on something comfortable, I've bought whatever, and I'm not even going to go near that type of clothing, because you can buy so much so easily. What I'm saying is that with mine, it's for you to show your special spark.
It's so beautiful. I'm just thinking, I want to say we will wear your clothes and we'll show our true colors. But actually, that phrase, true colors, usually indicates that someone's done something a little bit like dodgy. Like, oh, that person
yeah, no.
Whereas actually we're talking about it as being our magnificence, and
It is.
yeah,
It is. What's sort of coming out now is that whatever gifts we have to express them, and express them with love. And so I hope that wearing one of my coats is that you're not only expressing the love I've put into it, but your own love of that garment, but also your own love of yourself. That actually, why not? Why not? That Marianne Williamson poem, why not? We should show our gifts. That is why we're here. It's to show our true gifts, essence to the world.
And just thinking back to you saying about how you anticipate us, when we're wearing something that you've created for us, and you were saying earlier to me about how it's a journey that that we're both on. It's not just you. There's this flow between you and the person that you're commissioning for. Is if I'm going out and I'm feeling more confident and I'm feeling more myself, I think you said more fully myself, then I can bring more of myself to the world, can't I? I can bring more of of my truth out to the world. So actually there's a real ripple out effect, isn't there, in the work that you do with the way that you marry your skills with the skills of your heart to then marry those to someone else through a garment, and then that ripple out effect of being able to really serve someone, be more fully themselves and bring their gifts more fully out into the world. I mean, it's like you're helping birth that.
I suppose so. And actually, in a way, when an architect designs something as a commission for someone, somewhere to live, or even a building to work in, they're bringing that same essence through. So there's some of the architect and his ideas and inspiration and ego and all of that, but there also has to be the final user, the user as well. And when things are not lined up, then it's always going to be a bit jarring. So to have that sort of feeling that whatever I create, and I create it to the best of my ability, so I finish it off beautifully and I think about all those little extras, but I want that person wearing it to feel $1 million. Yeah, to feel that not only have they got a one-off piece, because all of my pieces are one-offs, so they're beyond haute couture in some ways, but they're not in others, because they are it's really hard to say, they are for that individual.
Yeah, it's wonderful, Catherine, and it's really wonderful to be able to talk to you in such depth about the whole journey and of what you're really creating and the value that brings to each person. And I really want to encourage people who are watching, to talk to you about this, because I'm kind of thinking of grand designs, the whole architecture of grand designs, and how easy it is to sit and watch that and feel, oh, I wish I could have a home like that, or that kind of thing. And then you're talking about skins and how our clothes are the next skin before the house that we're in, or the home that we're in. So actually some people might be going, well, wow, I wish I could afford a Dior dress, or something of that caliber that will show off my magnificence. But actually all they need to do is not pay Dior prices at all. They just need to come to you and to create that glorious bespoke, unique creation that will really frame their essence.
Totally. And it doesn't have to be on the outside this really bold, bright thing. Just thinking of some of the woolens and linens and things I've got, it can be quite subdued, but by just flinging open and showing a wow lining, they're just letting the world know, actually, somewhere inside me, there is this rather glorious creation, whatever. So it is. And so I do work with subdued colors as well as bold, bright ones. I love all colors. I know when I started in textiles and other things, I most probably thought, oh, I don't like particularly working with pink or black or whatever. And I'm not a black and white person. So, but I'm interested in working with those in a way that creates something amazing. I'm working on a commission which is based on grey at the moment, but I've got lots of variations of the grey and a touch of red and gold. And the lining is a sort of brick red version of this gorgeous one, which is
Wow.
griffins.
Wow.
Now, the red is quite, it's more of a dull red. It's more this sort of red than a in your face red, but with the sheen of the sort of silver of the griffins on it. And the person receiving this is 6'5", so he is going to be.
Oh, wow. I mean, I'm thinking it's not just magical clothing, you're creating mythical clothing.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, yeah. But it doesn't have to be Lord of the Rings style. But if you wanted something like that, it can be. I mean, in a way, anything is possible. But anything like that is, you know, I can't do those every week. They take time. Whereas I can put together fairly simple colors and think, right, I've created something, you know, that somebody will wear every day or every week and think, God, I love wearing this.
Wow. And we've been talking mainly about like coats and jackets, but
yes,
do you want to keep it to that? Or
I do. Yes, I do. I mean, for the wedding outfit, I did make the dress to go underneath it. And obviously that involves fitting, like making a mock-up so that I can check that it fits in the right places. But I don't necessarily want to get into that whole dressmaking side. In a way, I'm saying, right, I'm just doing the outer covering.
Yeah.
I think, other people have said, oh, why don't you do this and why don't you do multiple sizes? And I think no, because I just can't. I haven't got a warehouse to keep all the fabric, and I'm not trying to I used to make collector's teddy bears years ago, and I'd make one, and then I remember a shop asked me to make 6 of that particular one, and I made another 6, and they were nothing like the original, because you cannot recreate. I mean, if you've got a big factory somewhere, and even Joe Brown's, you know, they've just got a factory churning out the same thing. Yeah, fine, but I can't do that. And if you get into something like a quilted garment, nobody can copy it or replicate it because they're never going to get the stitching right for a start. So, and that the fabric ranges disappear once they're sold out around the world. They've gone, you know, so you can't.
But that's kind of a USP of yours, isn't it? That every single item that you've created, whether someone's commissioned it or buys it off the rack at an event or a show, is unique. And
it is, yeah.
How many people can say that? Like,
that's right. So even if I use, you know, some of these ones like Martin, which are fabrics I can rebuy, I might put them together in a different way and emphasize a different color. So that you know, it will still be a unique garment.
Wow.
I think I've never liked doing the same thing again and again. Each one is a different expression because I happen to love that particular print or color, and I want to see what I can mix with it.
But I think you also know in your heart that every person is different.
But every person is different. Yes, that's right. Yes,
it's not going to work having them replicated. I can't. It just doesn't fit with you. You're not that kind of person anyway, are you?
No, not at all. No.
You're a complete one-off. So Catherine, for those who want to connect with you, who want to talk about commissioning, we're not going to talk pricing on
oh no.
But I do want people to know that what they think it might cost is probably nowhere near what actually you do charge. And many of us have been saying you're not charging anywhere near enough. So for those of you who are interested, I would recommend you contact Catherine as soon as possible before she's gone, actually, I think I'm just going to charge 10 times what I'm charging.
Well, yeah, I've been wondering that. Yes, yeah. And actually, at the moment on my Etsy shop, which I'm not sure I'm carrying on with, everything's on 20% off. So whatever's on there.
We'll put the link to the Etsy shop in.
Yes, I'll send it to Steffi, because I didn't send that one. But everything else, including all my artwork, is on my Facebook textiles page,
which is called
Catherine Laws Textiles, and that has all the other jackets that are not on the Etsy shop.
And that's on Facebook.
But also all my quilted coats that I made for competitions, and all my artwork as well, just to show what I can do.
And so that's on Facebook, that page, isn't it?
Yes.
Brilliant. And if people want to have a conversation with you about,
they can contact me through Facebook or Etsy. Yeah.
Fantastic. Right, well, we've got just a couple more minutes. So is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you would love to share about what you do or how you feel about what you do?
I don't know. I have so much here. I feel as though I'm overflowing with ideas and fabric, and in a way it's how I show all the fabrics I've already got to people, thinking, oh, well, I've got 3 Japanese kimonos over there that I can repurpose that will create something wonderful for someone. I think if people are worried, if they can give me an idea of what colors they love, what sort of prints and things, then I can show them a range that I already have that may spark and think, right, yeah, that's the ones I like. Yes. But also leave me a little bit of leeway in thinking, well, I'll finish it off in the way that I think.
And if anybody's thinking that in order to commission something, they have to come and be present with you, actually, that's not true either.
No, it's not. No.
Post,
yes.
So.
I mean, if it's a fully commissioned fitted garment, then I will make a mock-up for them to try to get all the dimensions right. So that one-off garment is more expensive. It doesn't all have to be paid for in big one lump either. You know, I accept payment in terms. The simple jackets, if I work to a particular size, you know, the kimono jackets work from small, medium, large.
Fantastic. Wow. Well, I'm so looking forward to getting my jacket, and I think that when I do, then we'll have to do another interview with me in that. So thank you so very much. I think it's a really fascinating conversation about the power of clothing. I mean, I don't mean as in, you know, power over, but what we can receive by wearing clothes that really match us and help us radiate who we are. Then, you know, I've often thought of fashion as a bit superficial.
So did I. Yes. Yeah.
This is something else. This is beyond fashion, and I find that incredibly inspiring. So
yeah, well, we all have to wear clothes, you know. So yeah. Why not actually really enjoy wearing clothes? But it doesn't have to be all the time, or, you know, everything that you wear, but having 1 or 2 things that you can put on and just think. And I have bought coats that I just adore wearing because they swing, they flow, they have that particular detail or that color, but I put them on and I think, wow, I just love this. And I think
Wow.
it does help a bit with self-love. You know, it's because I'm saying, right, you know, I'm worth having this. You know, why not?
Mm.
I'm going out. I don't have a perfect figure. I'm not the most beautiful woman on the planet, whatever, but actually we all have a beauty and it shines through. So when I learnt my colors and I started wearing things that were more suitable for me, you know, I started to receive the comments, wow, you look fantastic, rather than, oh, that's a nice dress, or that's whatever.
Yes.
It's that whole thing.
Brilliant. Well, on that glorious note, thank you so much. I'm now going to make sure that I can stop this Facebook Live. This is the bit that always throws me. That one. Okay, I can do both. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. And thank you to everybody watching this. And I hope you all have an awesomely magical day. And contact Catherine about that fantastic coat and jacket you have always wanted to gift yourself. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.